Excuse me. Welcome back to Kamen Rider Review, episode number 24. This is discussing episode 22, the 20 of Kamen Rider V3, and the Kamen Rider in the V3 versus the Destron Monsters movie. Yep, I watched that one after watching episode 22. Now, 22 is a standalone episode, and it definitely is because basically the plot is pretty much contained within the episode, like a lot of the time where they end the episode with cliffhanger and it's resolved like within the very next episode. Now, the thing with these episodes is each episode's only got one monster. They don't double up again until like I think it was like let's see. They don't officially do that again until episode 27. So from 22 to 26, it's all standalone monsters. Yep. Now, the first one is a sea lion one, where we have it where the Rider Scouts are training this island, and Destron just happily there. Why they picked this the same island that the Rider Scouts did, it's just by sheer coincidence. So, one of the riders goes missing, and of course he gets brainwashed, and of course they try to take him out. It's a very interesting episode per se, but then you come to the movie. The movie is quite unique. And here's the thing, the movie is only 30 minutes. Yeah, for something that's called a movie, it's more like a short film. Yes, and this actually was the first time chronologically, according to the series, where Destron experimented with reviving dead cyborgs. Yep, and you're thinking, okay, who did they revive for this movie, you might ask? Well, the answer is pure and simple. They revive, like, some monsters. You're like, what? Yeah, and by the way, in the actual, there's no one they do like this, where they revive, like, some dead monsters. Now, I think it was just one monster in the movies. Yeah. Okay, the monster revive movies are the following. We have Guillotine Stegosaurus, Spider Needle, Boreman. Basically, it's like spray mouse. Yeah. Okay. Now, I should basically mention about the subbing when it comes to this particular thing. The subbing is different from the movie than it is in the show. Now, in the movie, they, for some reason, reversed the Kamen Rider as the Masked Rider, even though that's the American show, not the Japanese show. And also, by the way, one of the monsters is basically Pickaxe Shark. Now, when it comes to name, now basically they call them the Freak Troops, which is not their name. And also, they also give the monsters all the incorrect names. Like they call Pickaxe Monster, the Pickaxe Shark, the Climbing Shark. I'm like, seriously? It's like the subber, apparently whoever subbed the movie didn't sub the show because it's a completely different sub. Plus, the font is different. Now, I do gotta praise him for this. The timing is excellent. I gotta at least gotta praise the fact it's a little more better than it is in V3. But my gosh, I do not like it at all. Also, this movie had the first return, or the second return, excuse me, of the Double Riders. Except they don't show up until the last 10 minutes of the movie. So they revive. Basically, the original Monsters one is basically a buffalo monster. Yes, a buffalo monster. Mm-hmm. And he only exists in this one movie. Mm-hmm. Cause a lot of destruction. That's mostly basically what the plan is for Destron. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's all about Sanitanium. Yeah, which they got that part right. But it's not a bad movie per se, except that I just don't like what they were subbing when it comes to these names. The website I basically use, I can't click say anything and I want to shut down. Find a new subber. Because this guy, whoever subbed this one, clearly didn't watch the show and called them these stupid names. Yes. One of the monsters movie, I don't think I've seen them yet. Let's see. So they bring in basically the boil toad, the Lens Ant, which they call them stupid in the movie for some reason. Let's see, there is Burner Bat, which for some reason the sub calls a completely different name. Yeah, because using this thing possibly destroy us in Japan. That's mostly what it is. And by the way, this actually is the first movie that Dr. G is featured in. Yep, it is. Now, there's only two things I gotta criticize for this movie. Aside from the sub thing, which that's a minor thing, I think the biggest complaint I have with the movie, if you can return the Kamen Riders, why wait until the last 10 minutes of the movie to finally feature them? Yeah, I thought that was kind of dumb. And plus, didn't tell the body about it. Okay, fine, whatever. As in the case of the rest of the episodes. Now, in the case of episode number 23, 23 is all about using a propeller monster. Yeah, a propeller beetle. To become Destron soldiers. Yeah, it's not really noteworthy, but I think the whole thing with this guy is quite interesting. Next one is also kind of a standalone-ish episode. We have the cockroach monster. Because, of course, we gotta have a cockroach monster. Because, of course, it's Super Sentai. Well, actually, it's Kamen Rider. My apologies about that. Yes. Yeah, but causing, like, some spooking people. It's a weird episode. The whole mansion aspect doesn't really play a role in it at all. Yep. 24. That was 24. 25. Two-headed Mantis monster. Yeah, I don't really remember much of the episode itself. Not really, no. Oh, by the way, this episode introduced the Destron Rangers, which is a section of Kamen. That's simply what the episode is known for. Yes. And then it comes to 26. Which, by the way, the monsters destroyed by the end of the episode. 26 introduces a heater monster who Edith guys as a girl, and of course there's a pandemic. There's a plague going on. It's a very interesting two-part of this one is. And then we come to the episodes I really want to get to. 27, 28. Where we start out with a kid and his father investigating a cave, basically just nearby, and just happen to come across this cave. And the kid looks inside first because he's curious about it. And then he sees a box with a Destron symbol on it. And then he opens it up. And he's like, oh crap, it's a shocker cyborg. Yes, a shocker cyborg. And you're thinking, wait, a shocker cyborg in V3? And it's a dandelion monster. Yep, making her first appearance since the previous movie. Not the one that I just talked about, but basically the one for the previous Kamen Rider series. This is one of 4 revived monsters. Yes, they bring back freaking 4 of these damn things. Yeah. Which I'll bring up who else they brought back. So they brought back Dandelion Monster, Shaman King, which, by the way, Dandelion Monster, final appearance this one, never appears over again. Shaman King actually appears several times after this one. You have Imagurus, which I believe this is also his final appearance, which that's interesting. Yes. Yes, I believe this is actually his final appearance. Yes, because not much info about him. And as for the Spike one, who actually was the second to last monster of Shocker before they have Ambassador come on. He was actually the last one. And he's basically here for this one episode, and that's it, see for him. Yes, so you better think, aside from 4 dead cyborgs, Shocker cyborgs, Who else they bring back? Colonel Zal, Dr. Death, Ambassador Hell, and General Black. A fun fact about these four people. Two of whom actually did share screen time in Kamen Rider. Which ones? Ambassador Hell and Dr. Death. Yep, they did. Oh yeah, they did. They were the only two prior to this one who actually shared screen together. Colonel Zal never met General Black because when he showed up, Colonel Zal was dead at this point in time. I think he'd been dead probably in the series for about 2 years. And he looks perfectly normal. While Dr. Death, man, even though he's dressed normally, it seems as though when they revived him, they put these weird lines on his face, and his hair grew out a little bit. I mean, could it be of the whole... I mean, he's a cyborg. We think it was hair wouldn't grow. Apparently it did. During the course of the year he was dead. At least I also got to praise this fact. They actually brought back all the actors who basically played previously. Nobody's changed here. General Black doesn't really do a lot in here at all. Aside from that's the thing about these four guys. I mean, it's awesome to see them. I think it's great. Ambassador Hell is the only one who actually tends to fight V3 in this one. And this one's all about their Operation Annihilate Japan. And by the way, they do have Bridge of Monsters one, and it's some weird thing that shoots out ring, which I thought was a revived cyborg, Shocker cyborg. Nope, it's basically with Destrons. Yep. So they're also given tasks to destroy the cities. And here's the thing that is never pointed out though in this two-parter. Number one, does the four revived Shocker commanders, do they recognize the fact that the leaders of Destron is the same guy who led Shocker and Yellow Shocker? Never brought up here. Also, they never show these guys being revived. Just, oh, we have the four awesome Shocker commanders just alive and well. Now, here's something this two-parter also does not really explain. Aside from the fact that they clearly didn't recognize the fact it's the same boss day before. Two, and of course they mentioned, oh yeah, resurrection technology, which is something I'm like, really? Are you saying Destron had the ability to resurrect dead cyborgs all this freaking time? Thirdly, why the heck would you bring these guys back for? It's awesome to see these guys. I love the Shocker Commanders. I think they're great. I mean, I would say out of all four of them, the two best ones, in my opinion, I would say the ones that are really good. Colonel Zal was okay. I love Dr. Death. I think he was quite interesting. Ambassador Hell was freaking awesome. I love his basic fact he's a fighting general. General Black is really good too. This fact he was actually these. They even mentioned Gel Shocker here, which is interesting because oh yeah, here's the commanders of Shocker and Gel Shocker. Despite the fact that General Black was the only general for Gel Shocker, he was the only one. Yes, so you could say the biggest plot hole of this whole thing is why the heck they brought these guys back for, and also why the four they brought back. This is something that's completely baffling to me. I mean, I get bringing back the Shockers, the Shocker Commanders. Probably did for fan service, people who like the original Kamen Rider, and of course this is basically like about a year after the events. Now, in the case of General Black, he probably did the least amount of time. I believe he got killed off in the final episode of the original Kamen Rider. He only been dead for about 29 episodes of the series. So, yeah, in the case of General Black, well, after this two-part, you might think, okay, does he ever appear ever again in the series? You know, that's a really good question. Come on, seriously. Yes, he does. As a matter of fact, he appears a couple more times. Mm-hmm. Yes. So after his death, basically, now I should point out though, his death was basically in February 10th, 1973, and when he was brought back here for this two-parter, I don't think he'd been dead for very long. He only went dead for maybe about 6 months. when he was brought back. Yeah, he only been dead on TV for 6 months. Yes, in the case of the other ones, I would say that probably Gil shot. I would say that probably. So after this, basically, he does pop up again. Well, in a movie that came out in the 2000s, Double O, Deno, All Writers, Let's Go, Kamen Riders. That's actually his next appearance. He does appear a few times in his monster form, but his last special appearance was actually in Go Rider, which is a combination of Go Ranger and Kamen Rider. But in Bastard Hell, oh yes, this guy, he is so freaking awesome. I love Bastard Hell. One of the coolest villains in I've seen so far for Kamen Rider that I've seen. Yeah, and he does come back, but they change actors. Yeah, despite the fact the original one, despite the fact this one, they do bring back the same guy who in the next one. Yeah, so yeah, it's after this he basically just appears for movies. Yeah, he just appears in movies afterwards. In the show itself, he never returns. No, seriously, he never actually returns. Yeah, so basically, I think by the time he came back to life, which was in episode 79, he was dead for about a year at best. Basically, by the time I think the other two been dead a little bit longer than that. Mm-hmm. So his next appearance, you might be thinking, is a double movie. Well, it's actually Kamen Rider Decade All Rider vs. Die Shocker. That's actually his next appearance. He does appear in 2 other movies. He appears in Kamen Rider 1, the movie. Yes, he appears in Kamen Rider 1, the movie, which came out just about 4 years ago, though different actor, by the way. And, excuse me. Come on, stop it here. Thank you. He does pop up right afterwards in one movie. I mean, you could say his last special appearance was the Kamen Rider Build special event. Yeah, but he's a really cool villain. Colonel Zal, I believe this was his last appearance. Yes, I think it was. He was probably the only one of the 4 who does not get brought back that much. No. I mean, aside from I would say probably his last special appearance was probably in a video game per se, but on screen, yeah, he was the only one of the 4 probably wasn't brought back that much. But I would say the 4, he was probably the weakest of the 4. I mean, because here's the thing, he wasn't around very long in the Kamen Rider series. Yes, if you think about it, I mean, Dr. Death was only around for like a dozen episodes before he got killed off here. Now, in the case of Colonel Zal, he technically was only in the series for about 14 episodes before he got killed off. Dr. Death, he was only there in the series. By the way, I love this guy. He was only around for about, roughly in a row, about 13 straight episodes. And then he comes back for 1, 2, about 3 more. He's in 16 episodes. But after this, next time we see him is not until Double O, Dano, All Writers, Let's Go Kamen Riders. His last appearance was in Kamen Rider Revised Special Event, which is a stage show. But that was actually his most recent appearance day, but on screen on TV, it was probably... Let's see. It's not that one. It was a movie. It was a Kamen Rider Daniel Pretty Daniel Appears, which only came out just a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that probably was his last official appearance in the series. Yeah. But these episodes, I mean, I do enjoy seeing them back. But like I said, they feel a bit disappointing. Because it's a 2-parter. And by the way, how they're dealt with is bizarre at best. Like, okay, so the base they're in gets accidentally destroyed by one of the monsters exploding And supposedly all their commanders get killed off here. Yes, it's baffling. It's like, no, Dr. G, he does survive this because he pops up for next episode because he has 2 more episodes before he's dealt with. But really? Yeah, this I felt was very lazy writing. Oh, we bring back the 4 commanders from the previous series and let them kill off by a building drop on them. Yeah, I thought this is kind of stupid. Now, in the case of 4, I do like it that the Year 3 came back, but in the case of Colonel Zhao, didn't need to come back at all. He was probably the least interesting of the 4. Of the 4 Shocker / Scale Shocker commanders, he was the least interesting one. He was the first one to introduce, and he was not interesting at all. I mean, I like his look. I like his I like his cyborg Monzo, which, by the way, he never turned into in this thing. I'm sure that they probably plan to do a lot more. Like, if you're going to do a theatrical cut of basically one of these episodes, you should have done it for this 2-parter because there probably was a bunch of stuff that could have explored here, but no. Now, here's something though. I don't know. Let's see. Did Kamen Rider V3 that received a manga adaptation? You know, that's a really good question. I'm sure it probably did. Yes, it did. I have not read it. No, I haven't. But if there's one thing they should have, basically, if they're going to adapt something, they should have expanded it. They should have got a better version of this episode. Yeah. It feels a bit disappointing once you finish watching this 2-parter. It's awesome to see the 4 commanders again, but you feel so disappointed once you finish watching these 2 episodes. Like, I eagerly anticipated watching this 2-parter, and now I watched it. It was interesting to say the least, but it was disappointment. That's how I felt this though. Yep. But yes, that's gonna be pretty much it for this review. So tomorrow I'm gonna review the last 2 episodes of Kamen Rider. I'm gonna do for Kamen Rider V3 and start Flashman tomorrow. Yep. Next video. Bye.